Stories Tennis. G'day, welcome to this Australian Open Live produced by Wise Words Media. We are live from Melbourne, Australia, where the sun is setting, and we cannot wait for the second week of play to start at the US Open in Flushing Meadows, New York. So what are we doing here in the evening? Well, I'll tell you what. We just realised this afternoon that Rinky Hijikata, his round of 16 match against Francis Tiafoe, the American, the 10th seed, gets underway tomorrow morning, and it would be remiss of us to miss the chance to educate our very loyal audience about Rinky Hijikata. I'll remind them, if you're one of our very loyal listeners, you already know we've covered Rinky extensively. He is a Grand Slam champion. That's right, a Grand Slam champion. So the weather is currently 21 degrees and clear in New York. What is the time there? Let's just have a look. It is getting up to 4 o'clock in the morning in the Big Apple. They won't be thinking about Rinky Hijikata, but we had to. So we've got a bit to get through with this player watch for Rinky Hijikata. So settle back, boil the kettle, make yourself a cup of tea, and we're going to spend the next hour in the company of the young fella from Western Sydney, whose parents are from Japan. One of them is from Kobe in Japan, and we'll find out which one next. G'day, welcome back to this Australian Open Live. We tell stories, and our story is tennis, and the story over these couple of weeks is the US Open Grand Slam, of course, and we just could not resist coming back to not just for player watch. We have two Australians, so apologies for a bit of bias, but that's fairly forgivable, isn't it? A bit of bias there as we look into the careers of two Australian men who have fought their way through to the round of 16 in New York this week. Rinky Hijikata, a Grand Slam men's doubles champion from 2023, partnering Jason Kubler, and the Demon, Alex de Minaur, won through his third round match, absolutely demolished Jarry, the Chilean 23rd seed, in straight sets, and the hard work is paying off for that bloke. So we're going to have to cover those matches, and Rinky Hijikata kicks off his match not before 5 a.m. local Melbourne time, or not before 3 p.m. In New York. And during that live stream match, we'll have quite a bit of information to accompany the point-by-point broadcast match play coverage to keep you interested. It's a audio only, radio style presentation. So if you're driving the kids to school or giving them breakfast before you do that, if you're in Australia, or if you're on your way to the match somewhere in New York, or if you are doing whatever you're doing, you can't get your eyeballs on a screen, don't worry. This Australian Open Live will be bringing you this match. So let's get into it with a little bit of this. So we're going to have that little stinger playing every time we switch it up a bit, and we're going to have a selection of hero images here for Rinky Hijikata, and just mix it up with a couple of other Australians. But also these hero shots will tell the story how we followed Rinky on his journey to becoming a men's doubles champion at the Australian Open 2023 in Melbourne. And just to remind those of you who were along for the ride there. So let's just tell you a little bit about how we're going to run through this particular live presentation. So we're just going to go quietly through Rinky's profile here and just fill you in a little bit. We like bringing you information about players that are a little bit off Broadway, but Rinky Hijikata, he will be a name on everyone's lips if he can get through this fourth round match against Francis Tiafoe, the American, the 10th seed, in playing on his home court in front of his home crowd in his hometown. And that crowd, the raucous, boisterous, in-your-face New York crowd, they are going to be, it'll be like playing playing American doubles, a singles player playing American doubles with two players on the other side of the net. Brings back a few memories. So, and then after we go through Rinky's profile and just bring you up to date with just a little bit about the story behind the stats, and then we'll, before we finish up, we'll just fill you in on some of the other info we're going to bring you during the live broadcast, the match play coverage, point-by-point coverage, a little bit of more information for those of you that like a little bit of stats and other sort of things, as we try to work out exactly where the winner of that match will come from and why. So let's get straight into it and find out a little bit more about our Spotlight series. We're shining a spotlight on the player watch and the player we are watching today as part of this special presentation by this Australian Open Live, produced by Words Media. We're in Melbourne, Australia. The player watch is not Jordan Thompson on screen, it's Rinky Hijikata. So let's just slowly take an amble through this little player profile of Rinky Hijikata. Now he's 22 years old, and he grew up in Sydney, and we've been just plucking out some information available in the public domain, and came across a very interesting and current profile. And this really caught our attention. We wanted to share it with our audience because Rinky Hijikata's recipe for tennis success is study, discipline, and in his own words, a lot of hard yakka. And he's a wild card into this year's US Open 2023. He was given a wild card, no doubt, off the back of his surging form, and he's reached the US Open third round, and he's set to break into the top 100 players in the world on the men's side of the draw for the first time in his career. Now let's just quickly let me tell you just some results in those 3 rounds. He's had a great dream run, actually, to be honest. Now dream run doesn't mean he's been given a golden ticket to pass through the ranks. No way, no. He's had to really work hard. He's had some matches that have taken, my goodness, almost 10 hours of play on court his 3 matches. So let's just take a quick look at who he's faced to get to where he's playing off in this round of 16 match tomorrow against the American Frances Tiafoe, who is seeded 10 at Flushing Meadow this year. And that's not what I was looking for. I was not looking for that. I wanted this. Because every time we switch it up a gear and just recalibrate, switch direction, we're going to play that stinger. So Rinky Hijikata in the first round. Now, bear in mind, he's an unseeded wild card. Now, get this. In the first round, he faced an unseeded player. In the second round, he faced an unseeded player. In the third round, he faced an unseeded player. And guess what? Frances Tiafoe will be the first seeded player he faces in the men's draw during the US Open. Now, that's not to say he's had it all his own way. He's had to work his guts off. And have a look at this. On court 15, in round 1 of the men's singles, completed in 3 hours and 59 minutes, Hijikata winning against the Russian Kotov in 4 sets. 7-5, 5-7, 6-3, 7-5. 4 hours, can you believe it? Round 2, his round 2 match, second round match on court 7 went 1 hour and 59 minutes, and this match went a little bit more straightforward, straight sets victory to Rinky Hijikata, 6-1, 6-2, 6-1, and coming up against a very familiar opponent that he's faced a number of times over the last 18 months, and he's had various degrees of success. Well, obviously, his third round match on court 17 the other day completed in 3 hours and 10 minutes. Rinky Hijikata came up, had a hard 4-set win in 3 hours and 10 minutes over the American, the Chinese player Zizhen Zhang, who's blazing his own trail representing China. But this time he wasn't successful, going down 3-6, 3-6, 6-4, 3-6. So some great results there. And sometimes, sometimes we like to point out that every so often a player getting a wild card in might have had a lucky break or a lucky draw, or maybe there's been a big seed defeated by a lesser known player ahead of him in that side of the draw. Well, not the case. It's really unusual to see somebody come through 3 rounds in a Grand Slam. He's unseeded, he's a wild card, and he's come up against other unseeded players. That is a real quirk. That's a trivia question for the ages, that one. So that's how Rinky Hijikata came to be competing in the round of 16, the 4th round of the US Open. His match is getting underway. Now, we'll just talk about local times first. Not before 5 p.m. local time in New York. His match will not start until then. And I think, if I can just find the schedule again, I think he is playing... the court hasn't been allocated yet, as far as I can see. Let me just double check there. I'm just seeing Alex de Minaur's name. So, yep, he is playing on Louis Armstrong Stadium. So I'll just pop all this in the chat for you, for those of you that are interested. Louis Armstrong Stadium, and I'm going to put in the link for the US Open website. If I can, I've just got a few too many tabs open here, but let's just grab this. So we like sharing this information with our audience, and so with that done, we're going to take a quick break. Don't go away. We'll be right back. stories, and our story is tennis, and the story is that tomorrow morning, early Australian time, not before 5 a.m. local time in Melbourne, Australia, the Aussie Rinky Hijikata will be taking on the American 10th seed Frances Tiafoe, and that'll be on Louis Armstrong Stadium, and I've put all the details you need there in the chat, and join the conversation, why don't you? Let us know what you think about Rinky's chances, or are you a fan of Frances Tiafoe? Are you tuning in from the Big Apple or somewhere in America, and you're enjoying the rise, the resurgence of the men, the American men, finally beginning to give you all something to cheer and be happy about? The women have been leading the way lately in the States, and maybe you're just somebody who is enjoying the resurgence in men's tennis. Since the retirement of Andy Roddick, it's all been a bit bare, the Grand Slam trophy cupboard there in the States. So join the conversation, or even better, why don't you start one and have a chat with us during this live presentation. What are we doing here today? Well, let's just do a little bit of this. We're going through a little bit of a profile piece. We thought we'd share this with our audience, our global audience, at this Australian Open Live, because Rinky Hijikata, although he's a men's doubles champion from 2023 at the Australian Open, he won that with Jason Kubler, he's pretty fresh in terms of, well, not that well known, unless you're a very dedicated follower of tennis. But let's just go through this profile. We saw it published in the public domain, and we thought this was just a great way to get to know this guy. So his rise to prominence this year at this year's Grand Slam, it's in part down to the lessons drummed into him as a young boy growing up in Sydney, Australia, and it's an insight into the competitiveness of Rinky Hijikata. The fretful hours following his debut thrilling performance on Arthur Ashe Stadium recently, last month in August, a couple of days ago, are illuminating. And that's 2022. He was pitted against four-time champion Rafael Nadal, and the Australian started with an audacity that astounded the 24,000 fans, and they were expecting to see the legend. They were expecting to see Rafa, the legend, waltz to a really easy win, and he was a wild card last year as well in 2022. Well, guess what? The 22-time major winner ultimately gained the upper hand, but after the match, in true Australian style, well, any style for a young man really, he was 21 at the time, Rinky Hijikata contemplated the defeat that was handed to him eventually by Nadal over a pizza later that night. But guess what? He wasn't satisfied, and it wasn't because the pizza was no good. No way known. It had been a great experience for him to savour given his inexperience, and it just didn't temper his feelings afterwards. He felt that he'd let the Spanish legend off the hook, and he said, look, looking back at it, there are things I could have done a little bit better, and it's easy to say in hindsight, but guess what? He reckons he took the foot off the pedal against Rafa. Well, that's hard to believe, but anyway, Rinky Hijikata, he appeared for the first time in a third round at a Grand Slam against China's Zhizhen Zhang on Friday, and he tries to learn a lesson from every experience and the losses he endured in his maiden season as a tour professional in 2022. They've helped him strengthen his game, and that helped him in his game against Zhang, because he won 6-3, 6-3, and then Zhang came back and won 6-4, and it stood him in good stead. It turns out Zhang, the Chinese player, upset the 2022 US Open finalist Casper Ruud last Wednesday, and because he's beaten Zhizhen Zhang, Rinky Hijikata will break into the top 100 for the first time in his career. Now, it's not just about stats and facts and figures. There's been a relentless quality about Hijikata's tennis, and we've already verified that by seeing his results throughout the first three rounds. And you'll remember that we went through his match results in his second round match. He thrashed the 2021 Wimbledon quarter-finalist Marton Fucsovics 6-1, 6-2, 6-1. And you just don't do that unless you're a top tier talent, do you? And just excuse us while we start this again. Just going to rejig this so we don't lose our place. Now, the right-hander, Rinky Hijikata, he is only 1.78 metres tall, and that's quite short by tour standards. But his legs have got the thickness of tree trunks. That's the writer's description, not mine. And they were developed courtesy of a lot of hard yakka. He has run himself into the ground over the last couple of seasons, and Rinky Hijikata attributes this to a killer summer in the gym at the end of last year, because he realised that he needed extra strength to thrive and take a step forward in his fledgling career. Now, if you're a regular listener tuning into this Australian Open Life, you'll know that hard work already paid off earlier this year, as we've mentioned already in this presentation. He won the Australian Open men's doubles. I think they were wild cards, those guys, Jason Kubler and Rinky Hijikata. They won that Grand Slam trophy in January this year. And no surprises, the benefits of his gym work were immediate. He won his first Grand Slam match as a singles player in Melbourne, and as we've just mentioned, he partnered Jason Kubler to win the Australian Open doubles crown. Now, the swiftness of his court coverage was a feature in his second round match at the US Open against Marton Fucsovics at Flushing Meadow, and it didn't matter whether he's zipping between the corners or sneaking forward for an attack at the net like a true Australian player. His speed survived his rival. So we'll just take a quick short break. Hope you're enjoying this profile presentation, the Spotlight series, shining a spotlight on the player we're watching today, which is Rinky Hijikata, the young fella, the 22-year-old from the west of Sydney in Australia, and he has managed to get into a fourth round showdown with Frances Tiafoe, the American, the 10th seed, starting tomorrow, the 4th of September, which will be Sunday the 3rd of September, local time in New York. We're going to take a quick break. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Story is tennis. G'day, welcome back to this Australian Open Life, the Spotlight series. We're shining a spotlight through our player watch theme. Rinky Hijikata, the 22-year-old young fella from Sydney. He, in about 12 hours' time, he's going to be warming up on Louis Armstrong Stadium at Flushing Meadow in New York, facing Frances Tiafoe, the 10th seed, the American player, on his home court, in front of his home crowd, at his home Grand Slam. Well, Rinky Hijikata knows all about playing on home courts in front of your home crowd. He won the men's doubles trophy this year at the Australian Open with his well, they're joined at the hip for life, Jason Kubler and Rinky Hijikata. They're going to be having many fond memories in the future. So let's get back to the player profile for Rinky Hijikata. And as we left it before the break, we're getting right into the meat of this profile that we found published in the public domain. We're really happy to be able to share that with our global audience today. And you might recall that before the break, we learnt that Rinky Hijikata had done a lot of work in the gym over the last 18 months and this last summer. And he said, you know, when you're in the gym, there can be some dark times when you're getting flogged. But when you get through the matches like these, and he's talking about his second round match over where he thrashed the Wimbledon quarterfinalist this year, Fukovic, it makes it all worthwhile. Now, there are all these lessons we've been talking about he's learnt were drummed into him as a little kid growing up in Sydney, Australia. Now, his father, Makoto, hails from Tokyo. He's a tennis coach. And his mother, Yunko, is from Kobe in Japan as well. And he speaks, we know he speaks with a broad Australian accent, Rinky Hijikata. We've heard him a few times in press conferences at the Australian Open. He's got Davis Cup aspirations, and it won't be a surprise to see him picked at some stage. But and he loves his pizza, of course, as we've learnt. But prior to this year's Australian Open, he said he had great respect for his family's Japanese heritage. And he says that Japan is almost like a second home to me. I love the culture, I love the food and everything, and I can kind of speak the language a little bit. Now, Hijikata was promised enough to travel to junior... he was promising enough, I beg your pardon. That's my undiagnosed dyslexia kicking in again. Hijikata was promising enough to travel to junior Grand Slams as a teenager. But as we all know, tennis, professional tennis, is littered with junior stars who failed to make the transition to professional ranks. And his mother, Yunko, who we said before was from Kobe, Japan, she always stressed to Rinky, her son, the importance of education and having a profession to fall back on. And that's how he found himself moving to the University of North Carolina in 2019. And he spent 2 years there studying a business degree at Chapel Hill at the University of North Carolina, that campus. And he has no doubt that the 2 years he spent studying there while on a tennis scholarship helped to make him. And it wouldn't surprise you to learn that while he was there, he earned an All-American honours, very prestigious All-American honours there in college tennis while he was there. And he developed and found a network of friends. They boosted his confidence as well while he was there and took care of the homesickness. And he found that the discipline required to juggle studying with the training and playing, juggling all those things, those demands, playing demands of a collegiate player, helped him mature. And he's a very mature young 22-year-old, as we see. And he says of his experience that his goal was always to become a professional tennis player. Ever since I was really young, that's all I ever really wanted, Rinky said. He never really saw himself doing anything else, to be honest. But for a little while there, he struggled with injuries and whatnot, and college, while he was there, kind of became a clear path to him. So let us know what you think about Rinky's journey, and it's a very common one for a lot of professional tennis players these days, Australians and lots of other players from all around the world getting sporting scholarships, and not just tennis. There's gridiron and basketball. Australia's Paddy Mills played famously for St Mary's there. That's going back 12 or 15 years now. Paddy Mills was at St Mary's, very famous basketball college there. Now, let's just take all that in. Let us know what you think of this profile. And also join the conversation there in the chat. You only have to be a subscriber for just a mere 60 seconds, and you can chat away to your heart's content. In fact, don't just join the conversation. Why don't you start a conversation with us? We'd love to know what you think about this young Australian who's making his way on the men's tour. Going to hit the top 100 when the new rankings come out the couple of days after the US Open finishes, and maybe, just maybe, he'll get through this fourth round match and into a quarter-final as well. That'd be fantastic as an unseeded wild card from Australia. At any rate, We're going to take another short break. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Australian Open Life. We tell stories, and our story is tennis, and the story in tennis, as far as we're concerned, for the last half an hour and another 10 or 15 minutes to go, is Rinky Hijikata, the young 22-year-old Australian. He is a wild card entrant into this year's US Open, but don't worry, he's not a rabbit in headlights in those bright lights of New York. He has forged a great trio of results. He has racked up some pretty impressive wins. He's been out on court for around 10 hours through the 3 rounds, and he's had a straight sets win against a Wimbledon quarter-finalist, and he's had a couple of tough 4-setters over some hours, some 3 to 4 hours, those matches. And we've just got a little bit left to go in this player profile. We're shining a spotlight. This is a spotlight series, the Player Watch, and Rinky Hijikata is the subject of our Player Watch today. So let's get into it and just see what his thoughts are about his current situation as one of the 8 Australian men, and currently the only one left, the one of 2 left standing. I beg your pardon. The other one's Alex de Minaur. And we're just finishing off this profile of Rinky Hijikata. We just had to share it with our audience because it was just too juicy and too current and too good to give up. So shortly after his opening round win on Monday, he was in his match on court 7 on Wednesday. I beg your pardon. There were members of his alma mater from the University of Carolina. They're called the Tar Heels. The college tennis team, and the Tar Heels, they were urging Hijikata on enthusiastically on court 7. They were watching him live, and they went out of their way to wear green and gold, the Tar Heels, and they were waving Southern Cross flags. Well, good on them. Now, Chapel Hill was Rinky Hijikata's undergraduate college at where he finished school in Sydney, and it helped round the rough edges off him as he embarked on a professional dream as a professional tennis player. And he said that all the New South Wales players have always looked after me. He said, when I'm in Sydney, they always inspire me to get better. He name-dropped Alex de Minaur, Jordan Thompson, Chris O'Connell, Alex Vukic, James Duckworth, the Duck, and Max Purcell, who those last 2 guys are also Grand Slam men's doubles champions. They won Wimbledon. And according to Rinky Hijikata, they all push each other to get better. And so he is the youngest member, Rinky Hijikata, of all those guys, and he is the youngest to get through to a 3rd round in New York. Well, he's already got through it. He's won that match against the Chinese player Zhang. And as we mentioned, Alex de Minaur will, in the most recent 24 hours, Alex de Minaur is also through his 3rd round match, and he's the leader of that pack. And O'Connell according to this article as it was published, he was in a bid to join him also on Thursday, but I'm pretty sure Chris O'Connell lost that match. So that's the end of the player profile there. The player watch for Rinky Hijikata. Let us know what you think of that player profile, because we want to make sure that we bring you the best unique content we can to educate you about these players. They're a little bit off Broadway, but there's nothing off Broadway tomorrow for Rinky Hijikata. He is up against Francis Tiafoe on Louis Armstrong Stadium. So we're going to take another short break because we've found some pretty interesting stats for both of these players, and they make pretty interesting reading. And I tell you what, with the form he's in, Rinky Hijikata, he might be starting as the underdog, but he could come through this match as a dark horse and win through his first round of 16 match into his first, his first Grand Slam quarterfinal. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll just round off with a little bit of a heads up about those stats between these two players, and also what you can look forward to during our live match play commentary coverage of the fourth round singles match between Francis Tiafoe and Rinky Hijikata, the fourth round of 16 match in Flushing Meadow in the Big Apple in New York. Don't go away, we'll be right back. We tell stories, and our story is tennis. And the tennis story today in the Spotlight series, we are shining a spotlight on the player we like to watch, who has already done quite a bit in his young career, the Australian Open 2023 men's doubles champion Rinky Hijikata, awarded a wildcard entry into the US Open this year. His ranking was just slightly outside the main draw there. He couldn't get into the main draw on his current ranking of 110, but he's had such great results this year that he was the wild card was given to him, and boy, hasn't he made the most of it. Tomorrow morning, local Australian time, not before 5 a.m, he will face the American 10th seed Francis Tiafoe, who is in pretty good form himself. He blasted the French player Manarino off the court in four very professional, pragmatic sets. His home crowd, home Grand Slam, not quite the home court. They didn't play on Arthur Ashe Stadium, but I tell you what, Rinky Hijikata has got his work cut out for him tomorrow morning. So we're just going to finish off with a little bit of this and a little bit of this. As we finish off our Spotlight series and this particular episode, the Player Watch on Rinky Hijikata, let's just have a look at by the numbers for these two players. We'll be back here tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock local Melbourne time, Melbourne, Australia, tomorrow morning. But let's have a look to round off this presentation by the numbers. Well, let's just go through some interesting stats here for Rinky Hijikata and what he faces in the form of Francis Tiafoe. Rinky Hijikata, and these aren't strict comparisons, but we'll just go through Rinky Hijikata first. he has won 48% of his return points. Through the third round, Rinky Hijikata won 48% of points while returning serve from his opponent, and he is ranked 7th in the 128 players that started the US Open last week. He is the 7th highest performing player in that field of 128 on return point win percentage. He has won 60% of points returning the second serve. That is 10th among the field of 128 all competitors. Rinky Hijikata has made 63% of errors from his forehand, so Frances Tiafoe will be looking out for that. He has lost just 5% of points with backhand errors versus 7% for Frances Tiafoe, so fairly even there. And the final stat that we've found of interest is that Rinky Hijikata has won 9% of points with forehand winners, compared to Frances Tiafoe has only won 8%. But look, the margins are so fine. Can't say it often enough. Time and time again we say at this Australian Open Live, the margins at this level, and you're getting to the round of 16 in the Grand Slam, the margins are so fine. It's going to boil down to what's going in, what's going on. Not what, well, it's because of what's going in the court, but it's sometimes it's what's going on in the moment, in the head of a professional player that helps them through to win these matches. Now, is there anything in the profile as far as stats go that we can suss out any weaknesses in the game of Frances Tiafoe, the 10th seed, the American? Well, look, he is winning 83% of his first serves that goes in. Now, that's huge. And he is 4th amongst the field of 128. He's ranked 4th amongst the players that started last week, the 128 players. So he is serving the house down at the moment. Now, he has won 40% of points returning the first serve, which is 5th in the field. So not bad, not awesome, but not bad. Tiafoe comes to the net 14% of the time. Now, that means nothing, because how many of those points where he comes to the net, how many is he winning? His fastest serve is 134 miles per hour versus 121 for Hijikata. Well, I can bear testament to that. I saw him serving against Mannarino in the third round, and yeah, he has got a very snappy action with his serve. He really unlocks his shoulder very, very quickly into his serve. And the final stat that we'll finish off with for this particular segment is his average first serve speed is 117 miles per hour. Now, how does that compare with Rinky Hijikata? We'll just clock that up and see how it compares to Rinky Hijikata. His average is 107 miles per hour. So that's all we've got for you with this very special live presentation. The Spotlight Series shining a spotlight on Rinky Hijikata as he beds down for a good night's sleep. There's according to who's the Man United coach again? Erik ten Hag. According to him, professional athletes, there's just three key points to their performance is sleep, nutrition and recovery. So hopefully Rinky's not digging into a New York pizza right now, which is what he had when he lost to Rafa last year and put on a good show. No, we hope that he's having a very sensible dinner before he beds down, and we hope he gets a good night's sleep before he comes out tomorrow morning Australian time, not before 6 o'clock in the morning, 5 a.m. in the morning, I beg your pardon, but we'll tell you all about our coverage for this match right after this. Don't go away, we'll be right back. tell stories, and our story is tennis. G'day, welcome back to this Australian Open Live. If you've just joined us, well, where have you been? For about the last 45 minutes, we've been shining a spotlight as part of our Spotlight series, showcasing through our Player Watch theme the career and the very current career of Rinky Hijikata. He is through to his first ever Grand Slam round of 16, fourth round match. Plays tomorrow on Louis Armstrong Stadium in New York at Flushing Meadow. He's up against the local hope, the very high-performing, well-credentialed 10th seed Frances Tiafoe, playing on his home Grand Slam in front of his home crowd, the boisterous, raucous, in-your-face New York crowd. And we wish Rinky all the best. We've just gone through a pretty interesting player profile that we just could not resist sharing with our audience, because according to Rinky Hijikata, that the recipe for success is pretty simple. It's all about study, discipline, and a lot of hard yakka, and that's pretty much the same for a lot of things in life, actually. So we're going to finish off with just letting you know about the coverage tomorrow. We're bringing you live match play tournament coverage, point by point, of this match between Hijikata and Tiafoe. We'll be kicking off hopefully around about 6 o'clock tomorrow morning local time here in Melbourne, Australia, where we're based, the home of the Australian Open. And we're going to be giving you a lot of nice, that's a shocking word. We're going to be giving you the plan is to give you a lot of great information to learn more about each player. There's going to be three parts to this: the stats that matter, the hit up, and the player bio. So what is the stats that matter? Well, this Australian Open Live, we like to delve deeply into the 2023 stats that matter. Now, why do these stats reveal more about a player's ability to deal with pressure on their own serve while turning the screws on and driving more heat onto the serve of their opponent? Well, we like to look into what we call the stats that matter. The serving stats, that's break points saved. And the return stats, that's break points converted. And the hit up, what's that all about? Well, we like to delve deeply into the lead up tournaments of 2023, the lead up tournaments that matter. Why? Well, I'll tell you why. Because what sort of form are these players in coming into this match? Sometimes, just like stats, form results from preceding tournaments can be misleading. And this Australian Open Live, we look to make sense of the hype from these lead up tournaments. There might even be a lack of hype. And of course, the player bio, pretty self-explanatory. And we go through for both players, not just, we got a little bit of bias, we admit that. It's a local Australian in the, well, there's two. Alex de Minaur is also coming up. But the player bio, the stories behind the stats, our favourite players, and the niche we specialise in. Learn more about the players in the top 100, because they're not just making up the numbers. And at the elite level, especially in Grand Slam tennis, the margins are so very fine between all these players. On their day, anyone can win. Now, with a retro look into these careers, this Australian Open Life offers a window into the personalities of the sportsmen and sportswomen we love to watch and be entertained by. So we'll just take a little breath here and just getting a little bit distracted by the sun going down here in Melbourne, Australia. So that's about it for tonight. That is Rinky Hijikata, Player Watch profile, all part of the Spotlight series. Let us know what you think in the comments below, or tell us what you thought of this live episode. I'm so sorry. I am so excited about the fact that there are two young Australian men into the round of 16 this year in America. The other one, of course, is Alex de Minaur, and I'm already thinking ahead to his player profile as part of our Spotlight series, and we'll do that tomorrow night. But first things first, let's just concentrate on one thing at a time. So make sure that you subscribe, and join us tomorrow for the match play, the results, the scores, the tears, the tantrums, the injury timeouts. They're all still happening because, of course, besides the singles, for the women and the men, there's the doubles, the mixed doubles, the junior girls, the junior boys. But tomorrow, we're not just going to bring you a full single live set. We're hoping to bring you the whole match because what the hell, why not? It is an Australian, two Australians who have performed very well this year at the 2023 Australian Open. And Rinky Hijikata, the 22-year-old from Western Sydney, both of his parents are immigrants to Australia from Japan, and he studied on a scholarship to get a great education in America, represented the college, and at 22, his tennis, his ATP Men's Tour professional career is taking off in the best way possible. And just as I'm saying that, I'm remembering Leighton Hewitt some 20-odd years ago won the US Grand Slam himself. He was the last Australian man. Was he the last Australian man? Just verify that for us if you're into your trivia. Was Leighton Hewitt the last Australian man to win a US Open Grand Slam in New York? Well, hopefully he will hand that title, that trivia title, over to, well, it could be, wouldn't it be awesome if it was an all-Australian men's final this year? Rinky Hijikata playing off against Alex de Minaur. Anyway, we live in hope, and we hope that you've enjoyed this episode. You've been listening to me, the bloke who walks, this Australian Open Live, the Spotlight Series, the Player Watch on Rinky Hijikata, produced by Wise Words Media. We're based in Melbourne, Australia, and we are based because we're in Melbourne, Australia. Well, you know that that's the home of the Australian Open, Melbourne, Australia, and we have some big plans for January next year. But at the moment, what we're planning is to get up early tomorrow morning so we can bring you this round of 16 match, this fourth round match tomorrow. Sometime around 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, local Melbourne time, we'll be kicking off. So thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and we'll chat to you soon. Bye for now.